I will eat you alive. I will eat you alive.
I was doing a 2-week hike on the Appalachian Trail. This was back in the mid-'80s. One evening, deep in the woods, I came across a remote cabin. You see these now and then out there. This one was open, bare-boned inside, just a couple of wooden bunks and what looked like an old table. It's not uncommon for hikers to stop in. Sometimes they leave things behind for the next person. A book, a can of food, a blanket, just like I did. I wrote a quick note about my trip, pinned it to the wall next to the others, even took a Polaroid selfie and stuck it up too. It was late. I crawled into my sleeping bag and tried to fall asleep, but my eyes kept wandering around the room. Then I noticed something at the foot of my bed. A framed photo, about 12 inches square. It was of an old man. He had this expression, like he was frozen in terror, his eyes wide, mouth slightly open, like he'd seen something you can't ever unsee. It unsettled me, but eventually I drifted off. Though I had awful dreams that night of that face. When I woke the next morning, I stayed in my bag for a while, just staring at the ceiling, thinking about that weird picture. I got up. I went over to look at it again. But it wasn't a photo. It was a window, a real window. There was never a picture. Someone had been watching me the whole time. I turned back to the wall to grab my things and leave. But my Polaroid, the one I pinned up the night before, it was gone.
We thought it was just another stupid high school dare. Drive out to some abandoned farmstead where a triple murder supposedly happened. Laugh, spook each other, go home. But we didn't laugh that night, and I've never gone back. There were 6 of us, piled into an SUV, headed way out past the edge of town. No lights, no signs of life. Just miles of broken fences, cow shit, and dirt roads that chewed up the tires. No cell service. Of course, it was almost 10:30 p.m. when we rolled up. The headlights lit up a broken house and a sagging barn set way back off the road. The house looked trashed, like someone had been dumping garbage inside for years. But it was the barn that felt wrong. We grabbed our flashlights and stepped in. The barn was packed with junk, old crates, rusted tools, shattered furniture, but someone had arranged it into these weird corridors, like a maze. Me and a friend went up the stairs to the hayloft. That's when things turned. The loft was filled, lined, with sharpened corn husks. Dozens, maybe hundreds. Each husk carved to a razor point. They were everywhere, row after row, like spears stuck into the hay. Then we heard it. A scream, sharp, panic, coming from the ground level. We rushed down and found 2 of the girls, my friend and her sister, frozen in this narrow junk corridor. They were surrounded by idols, handmade. Hundreds of them, twisted little figures, warped bodies, deformed faces. They said they heard someone else moving in the barn. I told them to relax. No other cars had pulled up. No way someone else was here, right? But then, as we turned toward the front door, we saw him. In the back of the barn, standing just past the edge of the light, was a man. No movement, no sound, just standing there, watching. We didn't speak. We didn't wait. We ran. I don't know if he followed us. I didn't turn around to look, and I never will. We told ourselves it was probably some squatter, just a guy messing with us. But those sharpened corn husks, those idols, that scream, whatever we found in that barn, it wasn't meant to be seen.
Years ago, I worked the night shift at an aged care home. Most nights were quiet, just sitting in the lounge, redirecting confused residents back to bed. We took turns. If someone wandered out, you'd guide them gently back to their room. Nothing spooky, nothing strange. One night I was walking a lady, Ruth, back to her room. She was quick on her feet, and as we passed each door, I glanced into every room. Just habit. Room 7. I saw someone standing next to the bed. Nothing unusual. Residents do that all the time while they reorient. I brought Ruth back, circled around to the lounge, and told Patty, whose turn it was, about room 7. She went, came back in under a minute, said the lady was asleep. By my 4th pass, I noticed something. The lady in room 7? Each time, she was further from the bed, closer to the window. I told Patty, she joked, she'll be in bed again by the time I get there. And she was, again. So I made a plan. Next time I saw her, I'd stop. And when I passed room 7 again, she was at the window, just standing there. I told Ruth to wait. We weren't allowed to use overhead lights, so I entered with my flashlight low. I told her, "Back into bed, dear. I'll wake you for breakfast." She laughed. "Oh yes, I'll be back in bed soon." But something about her voice felt wrong, like it echoed, even though the room was carpeted. I felt a sudden draft and the whole place smelled, like old wood soaked in cold water. I couldn't see her face, but I swear she was smiling. She didn't move, just stood there, facing the corner, still as stone. I turned to say I'd get help, and that's when I saw her. The real resident of room 7, lying peacefully in bed. Eyes closed, breathing slow, and this other figure, she hadn't left. Without thinking, I hit every light switch, the place up. But she wasn't there. There was no one else in the room. I stood frozen, trying to make sense of what just happened. I swear I saw her, spoke to her. But if you ask me today if I believe in ghosts, I'll still say no.
I am an amateur ghost hunter, so I have a handful. One that I find particularly spooky occurred at a cemetery with my boyfriend and a friend. Boyfriend doesn't believe in ghosts. Other friend believes almost too much. I have a spirit box, which scans through radio frequencies at a set rate. The theory is that spirits can communicate via radio. It ties into electromagnetism, another key principle in ghost hunting. I can always get into depth in explaining how things work if anyone has questions. My friend knew of a cemetery near her house, so we decided to go check it out. I brought the spirit box and an EMF meter, measures changes in surrounding electromagnetic field, as well as a camera, flashlights, and walkie-talkies. We arrived at the cemetery, and I noticed that the EMF meter was starting to pick up changes in the magnetic surroundings. This isn't out of the ordinary. The Earth and nearby streetlights have magnetic fields that would affect the readings. We turned on the spirit box. I pointed a flashlight to a grave and asked, "Who is buried here?" A voice came through the spirit box, giving the full name on the headstone. We repeated this 11 more times. 12 names were given, each in a different voice. The EMF meter started having bigger spikes than I'd ever seen. I think it maxed at 15.0, forget what unit of measure, but this was a big deal, as it indicated high-energy spirit activity. Granted, it was a cemetery. My skeptic boyfriend was terrified, and my other friend was ecstatic. I was without reaction. I'm desensitized to events like this.
So my school does a special camp for all the year 10s, but not all people can go because it costs like $250 and some can't afford it, which is understandable. But anyway, that's like the only camp all the 5 years of my high school, so it's a really big deal. So we went to the Christian camp called El Ranco. We didn't do any Christian-related activities, but we did do real cool stuff like archery, raft building, and wilderness survival. We stayed there for 3 days and 2 nights. On the second night, all of the students thought it would be fun if we all snuck out after the teachers have gone to bed and play spotlight on the whole site. 2:30 a.m., we started to sneak out and play. We met far away by the playground and spin the bottle to roughly choose who was going to be the tagger. There were 2 taggers. Few minutes later, we start. My friend Philip and I went starlight into the area where we did wilderness survival, obviously in the forest. It was really dark, so we must have gotten split up. I tried looking for him and couldn't find him for a while. I sort of like called out his name in a loud whisper, and he couldn't hear me. So I tried walking around the trees, seeing if he was hiding there to scare me. He wasn't. I decided he must have already left to go back to the entrance of the forest. I tried power walking because I was starting to get nervous and kind of creeped out. One of the taggers, his name was Thomas, tagged me as I was walking out. I honestly got scared when he tagged NGL. But anyway, I asked him, "Hey, have you seen Philip anywhere?" He responds to me while sort of chuckling, "What you mean? Philip's already tagged. We tagged him by the obstacle course, which was a good 30 meters away." To this day, I wonder, who the hell did I follow into the forest?